I stood in the sleek, modern kitchen of our Greenwich, Connecticut mansion, staring at the charred remains of what was once my passport. The last wisp of smoke curled over the imported marble island, leaving the acrid smell of burnt plastic hanging in the air. The blue cover was now a shriveled black husk, its edges crumbling like ash. My wife, Ashley, sat just a few feet away, calmly sipping a green detox smoothie. Her impeccably manicured fingers swiped across her phone screen as if she weren't the person who had just set my identity document on fire. She didn't even look up when I spoke. "You won't be needing it," she said, her voice laced with a particular brand of disdain I'd grown to hate. She smirked, as if she'd just told the cleverest joke. "Stay home and watch the kids. It's what washed-up husbands do." I'm going to take a break. A break. That's what she called it. Tomorrow, she was leaving for Miami with her lover, Damien. She thought I didn't know. She thought I was too stupid, too absorbed in my work to notice the late-night texts, the girls' trips, the way she started dressing to kill every time she went out. But I knew. I had known for months. What she didn't know, what I hadn't told a soul, was that I had just closed the deal of a lifetime. My startup, that little project I'd poured 15 years into, had just been acquired by a multinational corporation for $1 billion. $1 billion cash in my pocket, freedom in my hands, and she didn't have a clue. I'd kept it from her because I wanted to surprise her, to give her a new life. Maybe buy that villa in Tuscany we'd talked about years ago, back when she still looked at me like I was somebody. But now I saw the truth. She didn't deserve the surprise. She didn't deserve me. I said nothing as she finished her smoothie and headed upstairs, humming as if she'd won some great victory. I waited until the house fell silent. The kids were asleep in their beds, their soft, even breaths filling the stillness. Then I moved. I pulled a duffel bag from the back of my closet and packed some clothes, my laptop, and a few essentials. I opened the safe in my home office, the combination she never knew, and took out stacks of cash, several key documents, and the spare key to the black Audi sedan I'd bought last year without telling her. I didn't need much. This wasn't a desperate escape. It was a calculated move. It was me taking back control. Before I left, I went back to the kitchen. The passport ashes were still there, a black smear on the white marble. I took a pen and a notepad from the junk drawer and scrawled a short message. "You're right. I'll stay home. Have fun on your trip." I left the note beside the ashes, knowing she'd see it in the morning. I think it was a surrender. She'd laugh. Maybe she'd text Damien about how pathetic I was. Let her. I pulled the front door closed behind me, got into the Audi she'd never once paid attention to, and drove off into the night. The lights of the suburbs blurred as I headed toward the city. My mind was a whirlwind, but my heart was calm. I wasn't the broken man she thought she'd left behind. I was something else entirely. Something she would never expect. The penthouse suite I checked into in Manhattan was a world away from our Greenwich house. Glass walls, a skyline view, a silence that felt like power. I dropped the bag, poured myself a whiskey from the minibar, and sat on a leather couch. Staring out at the city, my phone buzzed. It would be Ashley. I didn't look at it. Not yet. I needed this moment to breathe, to feel the weight of what I had done. Rather, I $1 billion, a burned passport, and a wife who thought she had me beat. The kids would be safe with my parents for a while. I'd handle that tomorrow. Tonight was for taking my life back. I leaned back, sipping the whiskey, letting the burn in my throat mix with the fire in my chest. She thought she'd caged me, turned me into a stay-at-home prop while she went off to dance with her lover. But she had gravely underestimated me. I wasn't staying home, I wasn't broke, and I damn sure wasn't finished. Tomorrow she would wake up to an empty house and a harsh reality. I had left her something she couldn't ignore, not just the note, but the first tremor of the storm I was about to unleash. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I woke to the sun streaming through the panoramic windows of my new suite. New York City spread out below me like a map of possibilities. The leather couch groaned as I got up, stretching the crick in my neck from sleeping in an odd position, but my mind was clear. Last night, I'd walked out of that house. I'd walked out on Ashley and her arrogant little game, and now I was free. The duffel bag in the corner was a reminder of how little I'd needed to take. On the glass coffee table, my phone was vibrating. 10 missed calls, dozens of texts, all from her. I didn't read them. I knew what they'd say. First, confusion, then anger, then some pathetic excuse. She would have woken up to an empty bed, a missing husband, and that note sitting next to the ashes of my SEA. Passport. Good. Let her stew in her own uncertainty. I took a shower, letting the hot water wash away the last vestiges of our old life. I put on a clean shirt and jeans clothes she never would have picked for. Me. My first call was to my lawyer, Eliza. She answered on the second ring, her voice as calm and professional as ever. You're up early. What's wrong? I told her everything. Ashley burning my passport, her Miami trip with Damien, how she'd mocked me as a washed-up loser, and then I dropped the bomb. I sold the startup. $1 billion. The deal closed yesterday. There was a silence, followed by a low whistle. My God, Caleb. Congratulations. So, what do you want to do about her? I looked out at the skyline and smiled. Lock it all down. Joint accounts? Cards, any access. I want her frozen out completely. Next, I called Finn, my business partner and the one friend who'd stuck by me through the lean years. He'd been there when I signed the deal, grinning like a kid on Christmas. You're a genius, he'd said then. And now, when I told him I'd left Ashley, he laughed. About damn time. What's the plan? I told him I had a few pieces to move, some people to talk to. He offered to keep the press at bay when the news of the sale leaked. Let's keep your name out of the headlines for now. I agreed. Discretion was my weapon. Around noon, I got a text from Eliza. Done. Accounts are frozen. All she has is whatever cash she's carrying. I pictured Ashley in Miami, trying to pay for a cocktail. The bartender telling her, "Sorry, ma'am, your card's been declined." She'd call me then, furious, demanding answers. I wouldn't pick up. I made myself a black, brutally strong coffee from the sweets machine and sat at the desk. I opened my laptop and planned my next move. The penthouse was paid for in cash, a $1 million down payment. No mortgage, no paper trail, linking me to it. I'd used a shell corporation Finn had set up years ago for tax purposes. Ashley would never find me here. She didn't even know I could afford a place like this. To her, I was still the man barely making ends meet, the tarting-langed, useless husband she laughed at. Now I needed allies, people to help me turn this mess into something I controlled. My first target was Damien's fiancée, Naomi. She had no idea her man was on a plane to Miami with my wife, sipping champagne and laughing about how they'd played us. I got her number from a mutual acquaintance and called her for a meeting. It's urgent. Her voice was wary, but she agreed. A coffee shop in Midtown, 1 hour. I grabbed my car keys and left. Naomi was waiting at a corner table. Her blonde hair was pulled back, her face tight with stress. She didn't know me well, only as Ashley's husband, the quiet guy at parties. I sat down, ordered a coffee, and got straight to the point. Damien is cheating on you with Ashley. They're in Miami right now. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. I don't believe you, she said, but her voice trembled. I pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures I'd had a private investigator take. Ashley and Damien boarding the plane, his hand on her leg, her laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Naomi's face crumbled, but she didn't cry. She just stared, then whispered, "That bastard." I leaned forward, my voice low. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because I think we can help each other." She burned my passport to keep me trapped while they ran off. But I'm not trapped. I have resources, far more than they think, and I'm going to use them. Naomi's chin lifted, her jaw tight. What do you mean? I told her about the sale, the money, the power I now had. They think they've won. They have no idea. I need proof, Naomi. Something that will sink them. Completely. She nodded slowly and took out her own phone. I know his iCloud password. Let me look at something. We sat in silence as she dug through Damien's backup folders. Her fingers stopped. Oh my God, she murmured, turning the screen to me. It was WhatsApp messages, dozens of them. Damien and Ashley, planning how they would drain our accounts, How they'd make me look like the bad guy and her look like the fool while they lived it up. He says you're broke, Naomi read aloud, that you'll never recover. I let out a bitter laugh. He's about to find out how wrong he is. Naomi pushed the phone toward me. Take it, use it. I want him to pay. I copied the messages and sent them to Eliza with a note. Lawsuit. This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was about justice. Ashley. Thought she was burning my life when she torched that passport. All she did was light the fuse. I thanked Naomi, promised to keep her in the loop, and walked out of the coffee shop with a fire in my gut. The penthouse, my new headquarters, was waiting. I wasn't hiding anymore. I was hunting. That night, I sat in the penthouse, the city lights glittering like a million tiny eyes, watching me piece my life back together. My laptop was open, displaying the WhatsApp messages from Damien's phone, courtesy of Naomi. Every message was a dagger, Ashley, and her lover had planned to stick in my back. Every word burned, but I couldn't look away. He doesn't suspect a thing, Damien had written. Still thinks he's on the verge of something big. He'll figure it out when we drain the accounts. Ashley's reply, he's too busy playing daddy. He won't notice until the money's lows. Gone. They'd been planning it for months. To drain the funds, paint me as a failure, and escape to their fantasy life. The joke was on them. I wasn't broke, I wasn't an ignorant fool, and I damn sure wasn't finished. I paced the hardwood floor, getting Eliza on the phone again. I pressed it to my .com ear as she answered. Did you get the messages? I did. Her voice was calm but sharp. This is fraud, Caleb. It's the smoking gun. I'm also pulling the security camera footage from your house from the cloud. Backup. Sending it to you now. She paused, then added, You're awfully calm for a man whose wife just burned his passport. I let out a dry laugh. Calm is all I have left. Send it over. I want this to be airtight. Eliza promised to have the legal drafts ready by morning. Restraining orders, asset freezes, the whole arsenal. I hung up and sank onto the couch, rubbing my temples. The penthouse was quiet, too quiet, but it gave me room to think. I wasn't just fighting for money or pride. This was for my kids, for the life I built. Ashley could burn my passport, but she couldn't burn that. 10 minutes later, the videos arrived. They were grainy clips from the security cameras I'd installed last year after Ashley faked a break-in attempt. She'd claimed someone had jimmied the back door, but I'd never believed her. Now, watching the videos, I understood why. They showed her letting Damien sneak into the garage late at night. They were laughing as they stumbled inside. In another, she was going through my desk, probably looking for cash or bank statements. She even waved at the camera once, mocking me, thinking I'd never check. Stupid. I saved every second of it, labeling it for Eliza. This wasn't just evidence, it was ammunition. My phone buzzed again. Babe, where are you? My cards aren't working. Call me. I smiled, picturing her in Miami, fuming in her ridiculous heels, probably yelling at some poor hotel clerk. Damien would be sweating too, now that Naomi would have tipped off his company about his extended vacation. I didn't reply. Let her wait. I had bigger fish to fry. I called Naomi again. She'd just left Damien's apartment. I found more, she said, her voice steady. Receipts, plane tickets, hotel reservations, all in his name, but paid for with your card. My card, the joint card she had linked to her phone for emergencies. I gritted my teeth. Send it to me. Are you okay? She sighed. No, but I will be. I'm not letting him get away with this. I admired her strength. She was collateral damage, just like me, but she wasn't falling apart. She was fighting back. The receipts landed in my inbox. First-class plane tickets, luxury suites at Greek resorts, thousands of dollars spent on dinners I'd never tasted. Every charge was a slap in the face, but also a gift. Proof. I forwarded it to Eliza with a note. Add theft charges. The news of my startup sale wasn't public yet. Finn was keeping a lid on it, but the money was already in my new accounts offshore. Untouchable, Ashley thought. She'd left me with nothing. She hadn't even scratched the surface. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The penthouse smelled of new paint. Leather, the scent of a clean start. I thought of my kids, 6 and 8. I'd be confused this morning when I hadn't made their pancakes. My parents were looking after them, but soon I'd have to see them to explain without poisoning them against their mother. That would be hard. As much as I hated her, I want my kids to hate their mom. They deserved better than our mess. My thoughts drifted to Damien, the arrogant bastard. I pulled up his company's website, a small investment group. His profile boasted about integrity and client trust. What a hypocrite. Naomi said she'd emailed his boss with the WhatsApp, screenshots, and the info about his little vacation. He'd be fielding calls by now, trying to explain himself. Let him drown in them. On my laptop, the videos kept playing. Ashley and Damien in my house, my space, acting like they owned it. In one, I watched her burn my passport. She held it over the gas stove with a pair of tongs, laughing as it caught fire. Bye-bye, loser, she said, dropping it onto the counter. I paused the frame and saved it. It was proof of premeditated malice. Eliza. I would love it. I stood up, stretched, and walked to the window. The city hummed, oblivious to my war. I wasn't just gathering evidence to defend myself. I was building a case to bury them. Theft, fraud, maybe even destruction of property. I wasn't interested in jail time. I just wanted her utterly exposed, financially and socially. I wanted the same for Damien, for both of them to feel what it was like to lose everything. A new text from Naomi. He's calling me. I'm not picking up. I replied, keep ignoring him. Stay strong. She sent back a thumbs up emoji. I liked her more by the minute. She wasn't just a victim. She was my partner in this, whether she knew it or not. I sat back down, opened a blank document. The real plan was taking shape. Not just defense, but offense. I was going to expose them, not with loud accusations, but with quiet, irrefutable facts. I had a journalist friend, Zoe, who I'd once helped with a source for a tech story. She owed me one. She would love this. A Greenwich socialite's betrayal, money, sex, all the elements of a soap opera. I sent her an email. Got an exclusive for you. Off the record for now. Coffee tomorrow? She'd bite. I could already see the headlines. The clock ticked past midnight, but I wasn't tired. Adrenaline kept me sharp. Every text, every video, every receipt was a brick in the wall I was building, a wall they could never climb. Ashley had tried to erase me from her life. She didn't know she'd just handed me a match. I was sitting at the suite's desk, the laptop screen glowing with those damning texts and videos, but my mind was no longer on them. My thoughts drifted back, way back, to the beginning, 12 years ago, when Ashley and I first met. I was just a scruffy coder back then, hunched over an old laptop in an office that smelled of ozone and stale coffee. She'd walked in with a friend, all bright eyes, a disarming smile, and a dress that seemed to soak up the light. I'd been debugging code for 16 hours straight. My hair was a mess, my shirt was wrinkled, but she didn't care. You look like someone who's building the future, she'd said, leaning against my desk. I'd smiled, shy and awkward, and told her it was just a stupid idea for an app. But she'd stayed, asked questions, listened like she actually cared. That was the Ashley I fell in love with, the one who saw something in me when I was a nobody. Now, looking out at the city lights, I wondered where that girl had gone. Back then, I was fueled by ambition. I worked late, living on cheap pasta, and I hope she loved it at first. She called me her dreamer, said she'd be by my side when I made it big. We got married 2 years later, a small ceremony in her parents' garden. I was in a rented suit. She was radiant in white. I promised her the world, and I meant it. But as my startup grew, so did her expectations. The app became a platform, the platform a company, and suddenly I wasn't a dreamer anymore. I was an engine she wanted to steer. She started picking out my clothes. My old jeans were an embarrassment now that I had to meet with investors. My college friends were too crude. She pushed me toward her circle of sophisticated friends. Even my own family got pushed aside. She'd make excuses to avoid dinner with my mom or my brother Gabe. They didn't fit her vibe. And I let her. That's the part that stings the most now. I was so focused on building something real, something lasting, that I didn't see she was remaking me into an accessory for herself. The late nights at the office weren't just about work. They were an escape from her constant critiques, her little digs, about how I wasn't fun anymore. She wanted luxury, status, an Instagram life. I was still the guy who'd rather fix a software bug than sip champagne at some gala. Over time, I became a version of myself curated by her clean-shaven, buttoned up, quiet at her parties because that's how she'd trained me. I thought it was compromise. It wasn't. It was control. Burning the passport that was her final move, her way of telling me I didn't matter anymore. Stay home, she'd scoffed, as if I were a dog she could leash, while she ran off with Damien. She didn't just want to write me out of the blanks Damien of the blank picture. She wanted to immobilize me, to turn me into a powerless footnote in her shiny new story. I poured a glass of water from the suite's tap and drank it in one gulp. The memories hit me harder. 12 years, 2 kids, a life I built brick by brick, and she set it on fire like it was trash. But she didn't know the half of it. She didn't know I'd sold the company, that I'd turned that basement dream into $1 billion. To her, I was still the broke coder, the useless husband she could mock. She was married to a lie, just not the one she thought. I walked to the window and pressed my hand against the cool glass. The city hummed below, alive and indifferent. I thought about the early days, when we'd stay up late, dreaming of trips we couldn't afford, like that villa in Florence. I'd once sketched on a napkin. She'd laughed and said we'd go someday, when I made it. I had made it. Boy, had I ever. And now I was standing alone in a suite, and she was in Miami, drinking wine with the man she thought she'd upgraded to. The irony twisted in my gut. I spent years building something for us, for the kids, and she'd traded it for an affair and a tan. My phone buzzed. Another text from her. Stop being an idiot. Where is the money? I didn't answer. She would find out soon enough. When the cards kept getting declined, when Damien's promises dissolved into thin air, I wasn't the man she married anymore, the naive dreamer she could mold to her will. I was something else now, something she had underestimated. The camera videos, Naomi's texts, the receipts, they were pieces of a puzzle. But it wasn't just about evidence. It was about remembering who I was before her. I thought of the kids again, how she dressed them like little dolls for her. Social media, how she rolled her eyes when I took them to the park instead of some trendy cafe for brunch. She'd turned our family into a backdrop for herself, and I had let her. No more. I would get my kids back. I would give them a life that wasn't about likes or filters. I would show them the world, Florence, maybe, just like I'd promised myself years ago. Ashley could keep her Miami. I'd take what was real. I sat back down, running a hand through my hair. The suite felt too big, empty, but it was mine. No trace of her here. Not her perfume, not her demands, not her mockery. Just me and the truth. She burned my passport to ground me, to clip my wings while she flew. But I wasn't the backup plan she thought I was. I was the main event, the man who built an empire while she was busy posing. She'd mocked my friends, my roots. She thought she'd outgrown me. Now I was going to remind her that the man she burned wasn't her stepping stone. He was the whole damn mountain. I closed the laptop. The screen went dark. Tomorrow, I'd meet my journalist friend and start laying the groundwork to expose this mess. But tonight, I just sat there, letting the past settle around me like dust. 12 years with a woman who never really knew me. 12 years of shrinking and bending to fit her mold. It was over. The lie she married was dead. The real man was just getting started. I woke to the soft hum of the suite's air conditioning. The city outside the window was still asleep. My phone was silent. No more calls, no more texts from Ashley. Just a stillness that felt like a victory. I'd cut off all contact last night, silenced the notifications, leaving her to stew in the chaos she'd created. By now, she'd be in Miami, likely waking up to a string of declined cards and a boyfriend who couldn't cover the bill. I imagined her fuming, running her hands through her hair, demanding answers from a hotel staff that didn't care. Good. Let her feel it. I rolled out of bed, my bare feet on the cool hardwood floor, and made myself a strong coffee black, no frills. The suite smelled like freedom, and I was ready to use it. First, a call to Eliza. Status? I asked, sipping from my mug. She was concise. Joint accounts are locked. Cards cancelled. All she has is the cash she was carrying. The offshore trust is set. Your billion is safe. She can't touch a dime. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. And the house? Eliza's voice sharpened. Deed transfer complete. I've put it in the name of an LLC. She can't claim anything unless she fights it in court. And with what? Money? I smiled. The Greenwich Mansion, our big shiny cage was, for all intents and purposes, mine. Ashley could knock on the door all she wanted. She couldn't get in. I had become a ghost, pulling strings she didn't even know existed. No calls, no explanations. I checked my new banking app. Clean, segregated accounts, flush with the proceeds from the sale. Finn had transferred his share out too, but mine was the lion's. $1 billion. It sat there like a loaded weapon. Ashley thought I'd be scrambling. She had no idea I'd been planning this for years. Quiet moves, shell corporations, trusts she'd never even heard of. I wasn't the placely fool she'd made me out to be. Next, I texted Naomi. How are things? She replied quickly. Damien's panicking. His firm is coming down on him. I'm doing okay. Thanks. I liked her more every day. She'd taken her own hit but wasn't falling apart. She'd sent his boss the texts, the receipts, everything. And now Damien was feeling the heat. His cushy job was probably gone. Cheating on your fiancé with a married woman doesn't look good on a resume, I texted back. Stay strong. He'll be back soon. Naomi sent a fist emoji. Whether we realized it or not, we were a team. Now I paced the suite, coffee in hand, thinking about my next move. The kids were safe with my parents, fed and probably wondering where I was. I'd call them later, keep it light, but today I needed to focus. Ashley's world was crumbling, and I was the architect. I pulled up the security camera footage from the house again, watching the loop of her burning my passport. That smile, that laugh, it fueled me. She tried to ground me, but I was already flying. My phone pinged. An email from Eliza. Lock codes on the house changed. It'll be sealed tight when she gets there. Perfect. I pictured her getting out of the taxi, dragging her designer luggage, punching in the old code. Nothing. She'd scream, call me, maybe even call the police. Let her. The LLC was the owner now, and I had every right to secure my property. She'd be stuck on the curb in her stupid heels, looking like a fool. But I needed to hit harder. Not just the money, not just the house. I wanted her. Exposed, her perfect little life peeled back for everyone to see. That's when I remembered Zoe, my journalist friend who owed me one. I grabbed my laptop and sent her a text. Hey, I have an incredible story for you. Greenwich influencer, double life, money, betrayal, the whole package. Coffee today? Off the record. For now. She replied in minutes. Absolutely. 2 p.m. at our usual spot. I smiled. Zoe loved a good scoop, and this one was a feast. I spent the morning digging deeper, cross-referencing the receipts Naomi sent, with the camera footage. Every move Ashley and Damien had made was sloppy, traceable. They'd used my card for everything. Flights, hotels, even a couple's massage. I saved it all, making the file thicker. Eliza would use it for the legal side, but Zoe would turn it into a story that would burn Ashley's prized image to the ground. All those followers, those brand sponsorships, she'd lose them overnight. By noon, I was restless. I grabbed my keys and headed to the coffee shop early. It was quiet, just a few people typing on their laptops. I sat at a corner table, ordered a black coffee, and waited. Zoe arrived on time, dark hair pulled back, laptop already out. You look different, she said as she sat across from me. I shrugged. New chapter. You ready? Her eyes glinted, and she leaned forward. Hit me. I gave her the rundown, no names yet. The skeleton of the story, the Greenwich. Wife, the affair, the husband she thought she'd ruined. She burned my passport to keep me trapped at home while she ran off with her lover, I said. She thinks I'm broke. I'm not. Zoe's pen was flying across her notepad. That's a hell of a twist. I sipped my coffee, leaning back. I just sold my company for $1 billion. She doesn't know. Zoe let out a low whistle. That's one hell of a hook. What's the plan? I told her I wanted a feature piece. Not about me, not yet, but about quiet, financial abuse. The fake lives people like Ashley live. She's the centerpiece, I said. Her and her lover. Let the world see it. Zoe nodded, scribbling. We can keep it anonymous for now. Sources close to the place, eventide.com. Couple, that kind of thing. When you're ready, we drop the names. I agreed. Timing was everything. Ashley would be back soon, and I wanted this story to break when she least expected it. We finalized the details, how she framed the story, what I'd send her next. By the time I left, the plan was solid. Back in the suite, I checked my phone. Ashley again. This is insane. Answer the phone. I didn't. The ghost protocol was in effect. She'd arrive tomorrow and find a locked house, missing money, and Damien's life falling apart. And I'd be here, silent, untouchable, pulling the strings. She burned my passport to cage me. I was burning her world to set myself free. I stood by the penthouse window, coffee in hand, watching the city wake up below. Me. It was the third day since Ashley left for Miami, and today, she was flying, straight back into the trap I'd laid. My phone had been silent all morning, no texts, no calls, just the calm before the storm. Eliza had confirmed everything. The house codes were changed, the accounts frozen, the LLC in place. Ashley was heading for a brick wall, and I wouldn't be there to soften the impact. I felt no guilt, not after the passport, not after the texts, not after watching her laugh with Damien on those recordings. She had dug her own grave. Now it was time for her to lie in it. I checked a flight tracker on my laptop. Her flight was due to land at noon. I pictured her striding through the airport in her designer sunglasses, expecting to walk back into her perfect life. Instead, she'd find locked doors and a bank account that didn't answer her prayers. Damien would probably be with her, sweating and making excuses as his own world crumbled in the wake of Naomi's planned actions. I sipped my coffee and smiled. They deserved each other, two liars, wallowing in their own ashes. I, of course, was not at home. I was watching the security cameras remotely, the app open on my phone. My parents had taken the kids to their house last night. My instructions, no questions asked. I'd call them later, tell them I was on a business trip. Keep it simple. They didn't need to see this part. This morning's footage showed an empty driveway. The mansion was quiet as a Telplec ghost town. I waited, knowing she'd show up soon, knowing the cameras would capture it all. Around 1 p.m., my phone buzzed. A front door camera alert. Motion detected. It was her. Ashley was getting out of a taxi. Her hair was a little messy, her face tight, with irritation. She dragged her suitcase to the keypad and punched in the old code. Nothing. She tried again, harder, then pounded her fist on the door. I turned up the volume and heard her yell. What the hell? She pulled out her phone, probably calling me, but I'd blocked her number last night. I didn't need to hear her screaming. She wandered around the porch, her heels clicking, tried the back door locked. She swore, loud enough for the mic to pick up, and then she just sat on the steps, her head in her hands. I leaned back on the couch, watching her fall apart. She looked smaller out there, less like the queen she played on the internet and more like a child who'd lost her toy. Her suitcase sat beside her, a bright pink monster filled with clothes she could no longer afford. I felt no pity. She burned my passport, mocked me, and ran off with Damien, thinking she'd won. This was her wake-up call, cold, hard, and far too late. My phone rang. It was Eliza. She's at the house. If she keeps loitering like that, the police might be called. Are you okay with that? I nodded to myself. Yes, let them. It's my property now. She has no legal standing. Eliza let out a small chuckle. She is going to hate you for this, Caleb. I shrugged, though she couldn't see me. She already hated me. This just makes it official. While Ashley was stranded outside, I had work to do. I'd been thinking a lot about my mom lately, how she raised my brother and me alone after my dad left, how she always said I was going to do great things. She died of cancer 5 years ago, and I'd wanted to start a foundation in her name ever since. Ashley. had always been against it. It wasn't glamorous enough, she'd said. I needed to focus on real investments like her influencer friends. All talk. Now, with the money from the sale, I could do it right. I called Finn. Hey, you still have that contact for the nonprofit guy? He did. Sending it over now, what are you thinking? I told him. The foundation for my mom, educational grants, tech support for kids, like me. He was silent for a moment, then said, Your mom would have loved that. Man, count me in, whatever you need. I spent the afternoon on the phone with a brilliant guy named Arthur. We hashed out a plan. $5 million in seed money, scholarships, coding, boot, camps all in my mom's name. It felt good, like I was building something meaningful, not just for myself, but for her. Ashley would never understand. Legacy over likes. By the time I hung up, the paperwork was in motion. I'd sign it tomorrow. When I checked the cameras again, Ashley was gone. Another taxi, I assumed. Maybe she checked into a hotel, burning through what little cash she had left. I didn't care where she went, as long as it wasn't my problem. I poured myself a whiskey and sat down to write her a letter. Not an email, not a text, old-fashioned pen and paper. It was brief. You burned my passport to take another man on the trip of our dreams, so I burned the fantasy you called our marriage. I won't stop you from having your fantasies, but you'll have them without me, and without the empire I built. I put the letter in an envelope and sent it to the house address. It would be in the mailbox tomorrow. If she ever found a way back in, she'd find it. I leaned back, sipped the whiskey, and let the burn in my chest settle. The suite was quiet, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like mine. The kids would be fine. I'd see them soon, get them out of this mess, take them somewhere. A fun. As for Ashley, she was back to reality, and it wasn't the soft landing she expected. The cameras had captured her breakdown, another piece for Eliza's file. But I didn't need to watch it again. I'd seen enough. The clock struck 8. I stood, stretched, and walked to the window. The city glowed, alive, while Ashley's world shrank. She thought she could erase me, tear me down while she went off to dance with Damien. But I wasn't trapped. I was freer than I had been in years. The foundation was my start, a piece of something real. She'd get that letter, read those words, and she would know. This wasn't her game anymore. It was mine. And I was just getting warmed up. I woke to the sound of rain hitting the penthouse glass, the steady rhythm, matching the beat of my thoughts. It was day 4 since Ashley's world began to crack, and I could feel a shift in the air, as if the storm outside was washing away the last dregs of her fantasies. I made coffee. While the machine gurgled, I checked my phone. No calls from her, not since I blocked her, but the internet was buzzing. Late last night, she'd posted something on her prized social media, a vague, dramatic sentence. Going through a real trial, but I'll come back stronger. I snorted into my mug. Classic Ashley, framing her own mess as a sob story, fishing for likes and sympathy. She had no idea what was coming. I rewatched yesterday's security footage, her loitering on the porch, screaming into her phone, slumping away with her suitcase. She was probably staying at a hotel or with Damien if he had even come back. It didn't matter. She was panicking. I was calm. A text from Eliza. She's hired a lawyer. A hack. He can't do anything. The prenup is ironclad. I smiled. The prenup. She'd laughed when we signed it, calling it pointless, because I'd never amount to much. Now it was the cage keeping her away from my billions. The rain intensified, streaking down the glass as I sat at the desk and opened my laptop. Zoe's article had gone live an hour ago behind the mask. When? Influence becomes control, and it was already spreading. She'd kept it anonymous, as I'd asked. No names yet, just a prominent Greenwich influencer leading a promotion, double life with a lover while manipulating her husband's finances. The details were vague, but just enough to make people whisper, to make Ashley's followers look at her last post with suspicion. I browsed social media, watching the court of public opinion form. This sounds like someone I know, one user wrote. These fake, perfect wives are the worst, said another. I didn't engage. I didn't have to. The seed was planted. A text from Zoe. The article is blowing up. The comments are wild. You okay? I replied, perfect. Let it simmer a little longer. She sent back a fire emoji. I sipped my coffee, leaning back, feeling the warmth spread. Ashley's entire game was built on her image. Those curated photos, those number-blessed captions, the brand sponsorships that paid for her handbags and getaways, it was crumbling now. And she didn't even know why yet. Her followers weren't buying her attempt at victimhood. Too many had seen the article. Too many were connecting the dots. I pictured her wherever she was, probably refreshing her phone, watching the slow down. She'd call it a glitch, blame the algorithm. But the truth was colder. People could smell the lie. Her shallow influencer friends were already starting to distance themselves. I could see it on her feed. Fewer comments from her usual entourage, not a single /and 4/5. Heart eyes emoji from her yoga group. The brands would be next. They'd drop her. Quietly, no emails, just a slow fade. She'd built her castle on sand, and the tide was coming in. An anonymous email popped up. No name, just a temporary address. She used to make fun of you, it read. Called you her little ATM. Said you'd never leave. Because you didn't have the guts. I'm glad you proved her wrong. I stared at it, my jaw tight. One of her inner circle, someone she'd vented to. Over a late-night glass of wine, it didn't matter who. It confirmed what I'd suspected. She never respected me. She just used me as a prop. I saved it and forwarded it to Eliza. Another brick in the wall. The rain kept falling, a gray curtain over the city. I stood, stretched, and walked to the window. Ashley would be in damage control mode, but she had no tools left. No money, no house, no husband to lean on. Damien was useless, Naomi. He had torched his career. He'd be lucky to get a job flipping burgers. I imagined them holed up somewhere, arguing over whose fault it was, watching their grand plans turn to ash. She burned my passport to crush me, but all she did was light her own fuse. I checked the security cameras again. Nothing new, just the empty house, rain, pooling in the driveway. She hadn't been back, likely licking her wounds. Somewhere. I didn't care. My focus was shifting, less on her, more on me. The foundation paperwork was ready. I'd sign it with Arthur tomorrow. $5 million to start. A real legacy, not a filtered photo shoot. My mom would have loved it. Ashley never did. She called it a waste, said we should buy a yacht instead. Funny how I was building substance while she was chasing appearances. My phone buzzed again. A text from Finn. The article is brutal. You sure you don't want me to leak your name? You'd be a hero. I smiled and typed back. Not yet. Let her burn first. He sent a thumbs up emoji. Finn got it. He'd seen Ashley's slights for years. Watched her try to make me small. Now he was cheering me on, and I was glad to have him in my corner. I sat back down, pulled up her social media again. The post was still there, but the comments were turning. What's the real story, huh? We want the tea. Said. 1. Why so quiet lately? Another prodded. The anonymous email echoed in my mind. Little ATM. That's how she saw me. Something to shake for cash, to toss. Away when the leaves dried up. She didn't know my roots ran deeper than she could ever reach, that I'd turned that one tree into a forest. $1 billion, a new life, a chance to be me. Again. She mocked my work ethic, the quiet nights I spent coding while she partied. Now that work had uprooted her entire game. I poured a whiskey. Outside, the rain fell without end. The article was just the start. Zoe had more, ready to go when I gave the word. Ashley's takedown was being broadcast live, a slow burn. Tomorrow, she'd wake up to fewer followers, colder friends, a life she could no longer fake. I didn't feel elation. Not yet. This wasn't about joy. It was about justice. She tried to write me out of her story. Now I was writing the ending, and it wasn't one she could control. I didn't smile. There was too much rage for that, but I felt a shift. She thrived on control, on everyone believing her act. Now the mask was slipping, and she couldn't put it back on. Ashley texted me last night. Not from her number, I had that blocked, so probably from a friend's phone. We need to talk. Somewhere public. Please. I stared at it for a full 10 minutes before replying. Fine. Noon. That. Restaurant on Park Avenue. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her voice, but I needed to look her in the eye one last time to see if she'd squirm or lie or finally break. The restaurant was neutral territory, crowded enough that she couldn't make a scene. I would hear her out and then I would walk away for good. When the clock hit 11:30, I grabbed my jacket, a simple black one, not something she would have chosen. The drive was short, the city humming around me as I pulled into the restaurant's parking garage. She was already there, in a booth by the window. Her hair was pulled back, her face bare of its usual makeup. She looked tired, smaller somehow, as if the fight had been drained out of her. I sat across from her, keeping my expression neutral. The waitress came. I ordered a black coffee, no sugar. Ashley just toyed with her water glass. Her nails were chipped, her manicure gone. It was a new look. This was so cruel, she began, her voice low but sharp, kicking me out, freezing everything. It's too much, Caleb. I get the message. I sipped my coffee, leaning back, letting her words hang in the air. She was expecting me to jump in, to apologize, to fix it. I didn't. This isn't revenge, I said finally, setting my cup down. It's liberation. I'm not punishing you, Ashley. I'm removing you from the center of my story. Her eyes narrowed, then widened, as if she couldn't decide if I was serious. Your story? She snapped. It was our story. The kids, the house. You burned it. I cut her off, my voice steady. The second you torched my passport and ran off with Damien. Don't you dare act like my wife now. She flinched, her hand tightening around her glass. It wasn't like that, she said, but her tone was weak, rehearsed. I just needed a break. You were always working, always gone. I laughed, a short, bitter sound that stopped her cold. A break. You were planning it for months, stealing from me, mocking me. Don't lie to my face. She straightened up, her gaze dropping to the table, then back up. Okay, fine. I messed up, but you can't just erase me. We have a history. History. 12 years of her posing and plotting while I bent and built. I leaned forward, my voice low. I'm here because of our history. I gave you everything. My time, my money, my life, and you threw it in my face. You have no cards left to play. Her lips opened and closed. She tried a new tactic. Her voice softened, her head tilting the way it used to when she wanted something. We can fix this. For the kids. I'll come home. We'll work it out, honey. No, I said, sharper this time. You don't get it. There is no home to come back to. It's mine. The house, the money, the life I built. You're not a part of it anymore. Her face hardened, the mask slipping. You think you're someone now? You'll fall apart without me. You've always needed me. I held up a hand, stopping her. Needed you for what? To dress me? To tell me? Who to be? I'm done with that, Ashley. And you're done with me. Next, she tried threats, her voice rising. I'm going to fight this. Lawyers. The courts, I'll take you for half. I pulled the prenup from my jacket and slid it across the table, the one she'd signed years ago, laughing, thinking it was a joke. Read it, I said. You get nothing. Not a dime. Her eyes scanned the page, her breath catching. This can't be. I stood up, dropping a few bills on the table for the coffee. Turns out, washed-up husbands are pretty good at the long game. Goodbye, Ashley. I walked out. I could feel her eyes burning into my back, but I didn't turn. Around. Outside, the air was crisp, the city alive around me. She had tried it. All guilt, charm, threats, and none of it had worked. I got in the car and took a deep breath. It was over. The last thread was cut. She was no longer my wife in any sense of the word. The restaurant disappeared in my rearview mirror as I drove back to the suite. The weight in my chest felt lighter. Back in the penthouse, I poured a whiskey, the afternoon light slanting through the windows. The prenup was my shield, but the real victory was having walked away. She thought she could manipulate me one last time, pull me back into her orbit. She didn't know I was already past her. My phone buzzed. It was Zoe. The story is still trending. Do we drop the names? I texted back, soon. Let her simmer a little longer. Ashley's breakdown in the restaurant would make for good story fodder. But I didn't need it. The anonymous version was enough for now. I sat there, thinking of her, grasping at straws. She'd called me cruel, but the cruelty would have been to drag this out, to play her game. I'd made a clean cut. The kids were next. I'd see them tomorrow. Take them for ice cream. Start to rebuild what she had fractured. They didn't need her drama. They just needed me. To be there. I'd sort out custody with Eliza. No fuss. The whiskey burned on the way down. A good burn. I wasn't the man she married. The quiet coder she could mold. I was myself again, raw, real, with $1 billion and a life she couldn't touch. Today she had revealed herself, showing the desperation behind the polish. And I had revealed myself to her, stripping away the power she held over me. The game was over. I had won. And I wasn't looking back. I woke to sunlight flooding the penthouse floor. Beyond the glass, the city stretched out like a promise I could finally keep. Ashley was gone, not just from the house, but from my head. After yesterday's showdown at the restaurant, her voice had become a whisper. I had cut the final tie, left her dangling, and now, this day was mine. The coffee was brewing in the kitchen, its rich aroma filling the space as I dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans. My favorites. Nothing she would have approved of. My phone rang. It was Arthur from the nonprofit. Papers are ready. See you at 10, I replied. I'll be there. Today wasn't about destroying. It was about building. I drove to his office downtown, the streets buzzing with morning traffic. The foundation was real now, my mother's name on it. $5 million to start, to give kids like me a chance to make something big. Arthur greeted me with a handshake, his desk covered in documents. This is solid, he said, handing them over. Scholarships, coding camps, mentorships. We start next quarter. I signed, the sound of my pen scratching across the page. I could feel my mom, with me the one who worked 2 shifts to buy me that first clunky computer. Ashley would have called this a waste. She was wrong. This was a legacy. Back in the car, I called my parents. Bring the kids to the park at noon. I'll meet you there. She agreed, no questions. I hadn't seen the kids since I left. I missed my son's mischievous grin, my daughter's quiet questions. I'd kept it. Light on the phone, saying I was working, but they deserved more. The park with neutral ground open, good for a new start. I bought ice cream on the way, chocolate for my son, strawberry for my daughter, guessing their favorites as if I'd never been gone. They ran to me. When I arrived, small arms wrapping around my legs. Dad, my son yelled, his face already smudged with dirt. My daughter hugged me more quietly, her eyes searching mine. Where were you? She asked. I knelt to their level, handing them the ice cream. Working, kiddo, but I'm here now. What's been going on? They chattered away school, the babysitter's pancakes, a lizard they saw. I listened, really listened. No phone in my hand, no critical voice of Ashley in the background. We sat on a bench, the sun warm, and I told them we were going on a trip soon. Where? My son asked, dripping ice cream. To Florence, I said. Italy. Amazing buildings, delicious food. Their faces lit up, not knowing it was my dream, too, one Ashley had scoffed at. My parents watched from a distance, giving us space. Custody would be sorted out. Later, Eliza was handling it. But for now, this was enough. The kids didn't ask about their mother, and I didn't bring her up. She would call them someday, tell them her version. But I wouldn't turn them against her. They would see the truth, for themselves, in their own time. We played tag. I chased them across the grass, laughing for the first time in what felt like years. My lungs burned, but it felt good. Alive, free. Later, I dropped them back with my parents and drove to the university. I'd given a guest lecture there when my startup was small. The department head had emailed me last week asking me to come back. I walked into the classroom. Students in hoodies looked up, some half asleep. I'm not here to bore you, I started, leaning on the lectern. I'm here to tell you the things I wish I'd known. I talked about code and perseverance, and about building something out of a basement. They perked up when I mentioned the sale, $1 billion, a number that made their eyes go wide. The money is nice, I said, but what matters is what you do with it. I told them about the foundation, saw a few of them nod. A student asked, "What's the catch?" I smiled. No catch. Just work hard, and don't let anyone tell you you're small. On the way home, I called my brother Gabe. We'd grown distant, mostly because of Ashley. She said he was too rough for her circle. Man, I said when he answered, it's been too long. His laugh was deep and warm. You're telling me, you okay? I've been hearing weird things about Ashley. I gave him the short version, no drama. You're your own man again, he said. Let's take a trip soon. You, me, and the kids. I smiled. Florence, you in? He cheered. Hell yeah. Next was Leo, my best friend from college. Ashley hated him, said he dressed poorly, called him a slacker. Hey, he answered, his voice groggy. You alive? I laughed, harder than I had in a long time. Florence, me, Gabe, and you. He groaned, then chuckled. I'm in. I'm there. We were rebuilding. Me, Gabe, Leo, and the kids. No filters, no fakeness. Back in the suite, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I had a platform to finish, one I'd been coding in secret for myself. I called it Vero Truth. Authenticity, a space for real voices, not pretense. Ashley's world was likes and lies. This was the opposite. I typed, the code flowing. The old coder in me was waking up. Hours passed, the sun setting. I leaned back, satisfied. It wasn't finished, but it was alive. I poured a whiskey and stepped out onto the balcony. Florence was waiting. My trip, my way, no approval needed. My kids' laughter echoed in my head. Gabe's voice, Leo's grin. The foundation was a go. The lecture was a hit. Vera was breathing. Ashley was panicking somewhere, but she didn't own me anymore. I'd changed. The money, yes, but it was more than that. Freedom, purpose, being. Me again, not her version. The city glittered below. A canvas I could now paint. $1 billion opened. Doors, but family, work, truth, those were the keys. I sipped the whiskey, the wind cool on my face. Legacy mode wasn't about winning against her. It was about building beyond her. And I was just getting started. I was on a stage in Lisbon. The tech conference buzzed around me, a sea of faces, looking up at me from the audience. The lights were warm, the microphone heavy, in my hand, but I felt grounded, more grounded than I had in years. It had been 1 year since Ashley burned my passport. 1 year since I walked out and turned her world upside down. Now I was here, in a room full of coders, investors and dreamers, presenting Vero, my platform, my truth. Behind me, the screen glowed with the logo. Simple, bold, real. Authenticity, my voice boomed over the murmur. Accountability, truth. That's what this is about. The crowd leaned forward, phones held high, recording. I wasn't nervous. This was me, raw, unscripted. I'd spent months coding Vero. Nights on the penthouse balcony with my laptop. The city lights my only company. It wasn't just an app. It was a middle finger to the lies and falsehoods Ashley thrived on. A space where people could build things, not pose. I walked them through it. Open source, encrypted chats, no. Algorithms pushing fakery. We've had enough filters, I said. This takes them away. They applauded. A ripple at first, then a wave. I saw Gabe in the front row, grinning. Beside him, Leo gave a thumbs up. The kids were at home with their nanny, but one day, I'd bring them here, show them what their dad could do. After the demo, I stepped off the stage. The Q&A was next. Reporters swarmed, mics in my face. You're rumored to have made $1 billion from your last startup. Is that true? One asked. I nodded. Yes, I sold it last year. Another jumped in. There are rumors your wife betrayed you. Is that why you built this? I paused, the question hanging in the air. Ashley's shadow had followed me here. I smiled, a small one. She gave me clarity, and that's more valuable than anything she took. They scribbled, nodded, moved on to the next question. I didn't say her name. Not yet. Zoe's article had done its work. Ashley's name was mud online. There was no need to twist the knife anyway. The crowd thinned. I grabbed a water bottle, my throat dry from talking. Gabe clapped me on the back. You killed it, man. Mom would be proud. I smiled. Yeah, she would. Leo joined in. Drinks later, on the billionaire. I laughed an easy sound. Florence had been incredible. Me, Gabe, Leo, and the kids. Gelato by the Arno, no. Schedules, no filters. Now Lisbon was ours, a victory lap I'd earned. A woman approached, dark hair, sharp eyes, not a journalist, something else. Great talk. Her voice was warm but direct. I'm Anya. Artist and entrepreneur. Vero has real potential. I liked her instantly. No frills, no games. Thanks, I said. What do you work? Oh? She smiled. There was a spark there. Building something myself. Smaller, but a similar vibe. Truth over trash. We talked. Her project, mine, the mess of tech these days. She didn't ask about the money, didn't fish for status. Just ideas. It's hard to rebuild, I said, testing her. She nodded. Tell me about it. I smiled. I'm telling you. We exchanged numbers. It wasn't forced, just a thread to pull on. She left. Later, and I watched her go, feeling something shift. Not love. Not yet. Just possibility. Ashley was glamour and control. Anya felt like fire and grit. I didn't need a partner, but I wasn't closing my mind either. Being on the right side of the story wasn't about being alone. It was about being real. Back at the hotel, I sat on the balcony, the lights of Lisbon spread below. The balcony conference was buzzing online. Vero was trending. My name attached to it. They were calling me a visionary, the comeback king. I didn't care about the labels. The sale, the money, it was fuel, not the fire. The fire was this. The foundation was thriving. Kids were going to coding camps because of my mom's tad or placeless name. My children were smiling again, asking about Italy. Gabe and Leo were back. In my life. Vero was breathing, growing. Ashley? She was a footnote. The divorce was final. Her accounts were empty. Her followers were gone. She'd tried a comeback a few months ago, but she was pilloried. I didn't check anymore. I thought back to that night. The passport in ashes, her mockery, my quiet exit. She thought she'd won. She thought I'd stay small. But I burned brighter. I burned away the lies I'd built around myself, the cage she'd put me in. $1 billion opened doors, but walking through them was what saved me. I rebuilt, not for revenge, but for me. My kids got a father back, not an Elablé accessory. I had brothers in Gabe and Leo, not her fake friends. And now, maybe, Anya, a spark, not a script. My phone vibrated. It was Finn. Launch was a hit. Investors are calling. You're back, man. I typed my reply. Never left. Just found the right side. He sent a fist emoji. I leaned back, the night air cool. Lisbon glittered, a city I'd conquered. But the real victory was quieter. I was here, in command. Ashley's fire didn't destroy me. It cleared the path. It burned away the junk I didn't need. I lost a wife, a house, a version of myself I hated. I gained everything else. I stood, stretched. Below, the noise of the conference was fading. Vero was in. The world now. My mark, my legacy. The foundation was growing. My kids were mine. And Anya's number was in my phone, a maybe. I didn't need to prove anything to Ashley anymore. She had lost the game she started. I was on my right side, not of money or fame, my own, the side of the man who was always there, underneath her noise, the one she never expected. I stepped inside, the balcony door clicking shut behind me. Tomorrow, I'd fly. Home, to my kids, to Gabe, to Leo, to the life I built. Some fires don't end you, they let you begin again.